Believe it or not, it's been more than a decade since Apple acquired Beats. Since then, they've continued to focus first and foremost on their audio products like their earbuds and their speakers. But then in 2024, a year after Apple's somewhat disastrous launch of their more eco-friendly fine woven phone cases, they decided to expand the Beats lineup outside of just audio products to include phone cases for the first time. Now that seemed like a way for Apple to experiment a bit more without the direct reputational risk that they endured during the fine woven situation. Now, in 2025, they've continued that experimentation by releasing new Beats charging cables. These $19 braided USB-C or Lightning cables come in a handful of colors and are actually quite nice. But are they the right cable to buy amongst a massive cable market that's available today? And how does it compare to Apple's own cables, or to those from other brands like Anker or UGREEN? Let's find out. First, let's review what's available. The Beats cable comes in 3 different connector combinations: USB-C to Lightning, USB-A to C, and USB-C to C. I purchased one of the C to C cables since that's likely to be the most common choice in today's environment. In addition to connectors, there are 4 different colors available: Bolt Black, Surge Stone, Rapid Red, and this one, Nitro Navy. This navy color is the only somewhat exclusive one that is only available in this USB-C to C model. The other color types are available for any type. For the $19 price tag, all the cables come in a 1.5 meter or 5 foot length. You can also get a 2-pack for $35, saving you about $1.50 per cable, though you can only get that deal in the black color, unfortunately. There's also a super short version available, just 20 centimeters or about 8 inches, that's also available for the $19 price tag and also only available in the black color. The cable itself is a braided material and is super thin. It's quite flexible, helping to avoid retaining its shape or getting tangled up in a bag. Despite being longer than most cables you'll receive with your electronics, there's no included cable tie to help keep it organized on the go, which is a bit of a bummer. In my case, I've got a little twist tie here just to keep it together while I'm presenting today. The connector is surrounded by a plastic casing with the Beats logo. The connector housing is nice and thin, meaning that you shouldn't run into any issues with fit on various phone cases or other electronics. The connection between the cable and the connector is reinforced and feels sturdy, though not super stiff. Beats advertises it as anti-fray, but doesn't quote any specific details on durability testing, such as a number of bends it can withstand, which a lot of other brands will do. When looking at the cable's performance, you first have to consider that this is a charging cable first and foremost, not really a data transfer cable. In typical Apple fashion, they advertise in some pretty vague terms without too many detailed specs. However, what we do know is that this can charge at up to 60 watts with this USB-C to C version, and it can transfer data at a slow USB 2.0 rate, which is 480 megabits per second. So if your primary use case is data transfer, keep on looking for a USB 3 or even a USB 4 cable, which can transfer data substantially faster. I've got one option in my alternative section later in the video that meets those specs. On the other hand, if you just need enough data capabilities for your Apple CarPlay or to use with your Beats Pill or AirPods Max, including with lossless audio, this does have enough data capabilities for those use cases. With 60 watts of charging and the advertised voltage regulation, I assume that this cable supports some level of the power delivery spec, but it's not stated specifically, and it's clearly not the latest 3.1 spec, which supports 4 times more charging at up to 240 watts. If you opt for one of the other cable types, you'll get even slower speeds based on the limitations of those specific connectors. The Type A to C cable is limited to 15 watts, and although they don't specify on the Lightning cables page, my understanding is that Lightning is limited to around 20 watts or so. At these charging speeds, this cable is perfect for charging Beats products like headphones or a Bluetooth speaker. It also works great for most cell phones and tablets, being totally capable of charging an iPhone or an iPad at max speeds, though some Androids today can exceed 60 watts. Where the 60 watt maximum could be a limiting factor is if you need to charge a laptop. Using MacBooks as an example, the current generation MacBook Pros come with either a 70 watt or a 96 watt power adapter. If this cable was combined with one of them, your laptop would still charge, and it's still safe, but the cable itself would be the bottleneck preventing you from getting the faster charging speeds that your device is capable of. Outside of Apple, there are laptops which massively exceed 60 watts and which could provide an even bigger bottleneck. So depending on your use case with charging, this cable may or may not be sufficient. So it's good to think about how you plan to use it now and potentially in the future as well, since device charging speeds will continue to rise over time. Now that we understand the details for this cable, consider hitting that like or subscribe button if it was helpful, but don't stray too far because next we've got to talk about alternatives. The most common alternative to this cable is likely to be Apple's first-party USB-C cable, the one that comes in the box with the latest iPhones or that can be purchased separately for the exact same $19 price. When comparing the two, the Beats cable is slightly thicker and the braided material is also less tightly woven, resulting in a slightly rougher feel. The ends are similar in shape, with the Beats casing being slightly larger, though significantly more reinforced. Specs-wise, both have the same charging and data speeds, so no difference there. Finally, for the same price, the Beats cable is 50% longer, 1.5 meters compared to 1 meter. So for most people, the decision between these two is probably the Beats. You're getting more cable length for the exact same price, and the extra durability of the end should help it to last longer, which is a great benefit, especially if you've encountered issues in the past with fraying or breaking cables. If you want faster charging for a laptop, for $10 more, you can get an Apple cable which is 2 meters long and supports 240 watts of charging, which is the latest spec available today and great for charging a laptop at top speeds. However, it's still only USB 2.0 for data transfer, and at $29, we can do a lot better on price with other brands. So let's talk about some of the other options. As you look for alternative options, you'll quickly notice that there are a ton of cables out there with better specs for the same or even less money, but often from brands you don't know or may not trust. Here are 2 alternative brand options with products that I've tested and stand behind to give you a taste of what is out there. All the products that I'm going to talk about will be linked in the video description if you wind up being interested. First is UGREEN. This first charging cable from UGREEN supports that latest Power Delivery 3.1 spec with up to 240 watts of charging, but it's still just USB 2.0. It's braided with reinforced ends and aluminum casings. It's slightly thicker and less flexible, but comes in a good bit cheaper with both 1 meter and 2 meter options, both for under the Beats price. Next is this data cable from UGREEN. It looks similar to the first one, but it supports 10 gigabit per second data transfer rates, about 20 times what the Beats cable is capable of. However, it still comes in cheaper at just $17. It's thicker and stiffer, plus it's only 1 meter long, but the performance is a huge improvement for moving files fast if that's your need. The other brand to consider is Anker. I haven't tested any data cables from Anker personally, but if you're in the market for a charging cable, they have you covered. They have a bunch of cables that also support the Power Delivery 3.1 240 watt charging speeds, but the quality is incredible. The Anker Nano cable is significantly more flexible than both the UGREEN and the Beats cables. It still comes in fun colors in case that's on your priority list, and although it has a slightly higher MSRP, it's typically priced at or around the same as the Beats. If you instead want a simple cable that undercuts the pricing of everything we've discussed so far, that's the Anker Zolo cable. Still super flexible, still a couple of fun colors, aluminum casing, though slightly less reinforced, but for the price, this thing is a solid deal. This list is obviously not exhaustive. It's focused on a few cables that I had from these previous USB-C cable videos and shows that you don't have to go with this Beats cable just because it comes from Apple. It's not a bad cable, and the thinness may attract some people for sure, but if you're budget conscious or more focused on maximum performance, you can beat this cable outright for the same or likely for less money. I hope you found this video helpful. Let me know what you think about these new Beats cables down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.